Welcome to Tales on the Towpath, the podcast where every mile tells a story.
We're two runners who spend a lot of time out here on the C&O Canal Towpath, talking about training, racing, and everything that happens between the miles.
From early morning runs to the stories that keep us moving.
This is where endurance meets inspiration, one step, one tail at a time.
So lace up and join us on the path, because every trail has a story, and this one's ours.
Welcome back, everybody. I'm Adam Lowe.
And I'm Chris Earl.
And I'm Katie Lowe.
Katie, you are back. We are excited to have you back on the podcast. Hey, before we jump into today's episode, I wanted to tell everybody a funny story about my daughter, Lacey. So I was telling her that we had to record the podcast tonight so she could come downstairs, but she would just have to be quiet. And then she was trying to understand that we're on a podcast, and she was like, so you're on YouTube? And I was like, well, no video yet, because we're not good enough yet to have a video. We're only audio, but you can listen to it on like Spotify and whatever. So she was just like amazed that she could hear my voice if I just brought it up on my phone. So I brought it up on Spotify, and I brought up our last episode, and she was listening for about 2 to 3 minutes, and she was like smiling, and she had just this crazy look on her face, like she was amazed that it was my voice coming through, and she knows who Chris is, so she was listening to that. And then all of a sudden she just hands me the phone back, and she goes, "This is boring." So our audience, Chris, is not fourth grade girls who run every January at the HCC miles. Okay.
Okay, all right, good. We will stop trying to market to that demographic.
Perfect.
That's probably good, because every once in a while you have said something that gets like a PG-13 or borderline R rating. So
Yeah. But we'll try not to be boring on this podcast today.
Hey, speaking of that, how did your toenails survive this weekend?
So out of the 10, I still have 10 toenails, but now it's like 8. So I lost my I'm good. Well, I didn't lose it yet, but it's definitely going to fall off.
I think you had 9.5 at best to start.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, probably 9.5. But I'm definitely going to lose my big toenail again on my left leg or my left foot, and then I'm going to lose like the pinky toe on the left foot as well. So I'm going to be down 2 more toenails after the last weekend.
So 7.5, or are you losing the half toenail?
I think that one's good. So no, that one's good. So like 7.5.
Oh, wait, I was counting your big toenail as the half.
Oh, well,
So maybe you're only in 2 halves.
I don't know what to do about it. They're gonna fall off, and I even go up like half a size in my shoe. But just like when I run downhill, it must be my style. When there's a lot of downhill in a race, it just makes my big toe on that toenail just crush against the top of my shoe, and it's gonna be gone.
Well, don't you think
Right.
it's kind of like you're prone to it or you're not? I mean, as much as I've done in running, I've never lost a single toenail, not one time. So, but I don't think that's because I've definitely put less abuse on my feet than you guys have probably, but compared to the normal people who run and still have lost toenails, I've probably abused my feet just as much, especially out on the trails. And I just don't think I'm ever going to have that happen.
I think it definitely is shoe dependent, at least for me. I, early in my running career, lost some toenails, but since I've restarted with different shoes and with a wider toe box, I've had much more success of keeping my feet happy. So I don't know, maybe you need to just upsize your shoes, Adam.
Maybe I should look into that surgery where you get them like permanently removed.
No, I'm pretty sure that's not a good idea,
Okay.
especially for your wife who has to look at your feet on the beach every year.
Fair enough.
All right. Well, Adam, you did finish and complete the Capitol Backyard this last weekend. It was a fantastic weekend. The weather was perfect, I think, for the runners. Those of us who were crewing may have had a little bit different perspective, but it seemed like it was just about spot on for you all while you were out on the course. Why don't you tell us a little bit about how it went and how you did, and then we'll talk about some of the other folks who were there and some of the success they had.
Okay, yeah, great. Before I jump into like how my race went, like personally, I wanted to make sure I gave a shout out to Sarah Smith, the race director, and her entire team. I mean, 64 hours out there just during the race is a long time, not to mention all the setup and breakdown time that they must have had. So they did a fantastic job throughout keeping the energy up. They had two professional chefs during the race that kept us well fed, and they had just amazing food ready for us. After about the fourth yard, they started to just bring out one item each yard. The first one was vegetarian sushi, and then they just kept bringing stuff. I know in the morning we had pancakes with syrup, pancakes and sausage, pierogies a bunch of times. So a ton of different foods that they prepared for us each loop. And they looked like they were just having a great time back there at the kitchen, just cooking it up for us and putting down some bottles of wine for sure. So that was pretty fun to watch. Next, I'd like to thank both of you guys, Chris and Katie, and then Fogel. They were our main crew that we had. Myself, Samir, and Jeff. They kind of crewed us. Katie was there first thing in the morning till about 3 or 4 o'clock, and then she went home because she was racing Hub City Half on Sunday. But Chris and Fogel stayed through the night. And if anybody knows Fogel, well, we had him on the podcast before. You may remember that he hates the cold. So for him to sleep outside for us was a pretty big deal. But they took care of us the entire time. So without them, the race would have been much more difficult. That's for sure. And we'll get into that here in a little bit. And then we had a bunch of people that came out that we knew: Luke, Taylor, Jeff, Carissa, Heidi, Carrie, and then like all of Samir's family came out. And then Fogel's family came out too and hung out and cheered us on. And so that was pretty special that all those people came out to see us for what, 6 minutes at a time, maybe, and then we were off running again. And then I think there was probably a big party back at camp when we were gone. But yeah, it was a special time to see all those people come cheer us on and give us motivation throughout. So really appreciate all those that came out to support us and then stayed and crewed. That was pretty fun and special to have there. So I hope what's the word here? Like, I don't know, help me out, guys. Show my appreciation enough. I don't know. Like I can only say it so many times, but without them, I definitely wouldn't have gone as far as I did during the race. So I really do appreciate everything that they did. Now, go ahead, Katie.
I was just going to say, I think that what you're trying to express is that it really is a team event more than an individual event. Like, you're the one out there doing the running, but if you didn't have the support that you had, it couldn't have been the same experience, and it couldn't have been to the same amount of success. I know I couldn't be there the whole time. The original plan was for me not to be there at all when you first signed up for this, but the way things worked out, I was able to go for most of the first day. But I would have been very worried about you if Chris and Fogel and all your other support system wasn't there. So it was really made it easy for me to leave and know you were in good hands being taken care of since you had a team of people around you.
Yeah, I think at one point when I got back, I just came right back to the chair, sat down, and then I think I said something like, I could get used to this, because like literally you felt like a king because you just finished running, a yard, and then you go sit in a recliner, and then you have 3 or 4 people asking you, what do you need? Let me get you tailwind. Let me get you a food. Let me get you something else to drink. Let me put this blanket on you. So it was just amazing to have, that. Without that, like I couldn't imagine the time spent to fill up my own water, decide what to eat by myself, and then still try to sit down and rest. So yeah, I definitely believe if you want to go far in the backyard, you need to have a crew that you can have to help you out.
I think we saw that too, right? With the competitors who were there. they all had a support system. You know, some of them had, you know, full on bed setup in their 10 by 10 tent, and they would get tucked in. And as soon as they were up, you know, ready to go, they were handed their water bottle, handed their gel, handed their food, right? And they were out, you know, and it was just every hour on the hour, you know, rinse, wash, repeat. So
Yeah, and
it was definitely good to see that.
some of those setups looked like full-on living rooms, like, with walls on their tents, and it almost looked like there were rugs put down and chairs and set up, and I'm surprised there were no TVs set up in there too because and I wouldn't even swear that there weren't. Some of those setups were nice.
Yeah, there were basketball games, and I would be surprised if somebody wasn't watching.
Yeah.
Right. So, hey, so let's go into the race a little bit. Just as a reminder, I know 2 weeks ago we released the pre-race podcast, and we joked at the end, let's see how wrong Adam was about what I had planned going in. But just as a reminder, the race itself, it started at 8 a.m. You have a 4.167 mile loop, and you have to be finished. And then whenever you're done that within the hour, you have that remaining time to rest, rehydrate, refuel, whatever it is, and then you need to be back in the box by 9 a.m. to do the loop again. So 4.167 miles in under an hour, and then you go again until you can't go anymore. So that's the setup of the race. I remember when I practiced back in February, and I did it when it was about 12 or 13 degrees outside. So I ran my yards faster than I definitely did at Capitol. I ran them in about 39, 40 minutes each time so I could come back and sit in a warm car. And I just remember thinking, like, during that day, like, well, that was pretty easy. I didn't find it like very boring. I had people to run with the majority of the day. I was running pretty good. We only walked up hills, and I, you know, didn't run very easy when we ran. I ran like kind of a normal pace, and I kept thinking, well, this is pretty easy. I can do this. Jumped to Saturday, 9 a.m. So after the first yard, I think I came in, and Chris, Katie, and Fogel were there, and I think I said something along the lines of, "This is the weirdest race I've ever done." We're just like walking to the finish line in about 51 minutes. And then we had 8 minutes. Like I said, I went and sat in the chair. They all came over, gave me what I needed to get. And I don't remember if it was that one or like the second or third yard. I said something like, "I could do this forever." And boy, was I mistaken. Go ahead, Katie.
So so when you came in, when you hadn't even come across the line on the first one, you said, "This is the weirdest race ever." And then a guy beside you said, "It gets a lot weirder as we go on," or something like something to that effect. And then so when we got you back in the chair, you said, "I'm sorry to let you guys know this, but I could do this for the rest of my life." Or so it was the first loop. It was the first yard that you said that. And I was like, "Oh, okay, here we go." And I started then after that thinking about, well, after my race on Sunday, is it possible for me to come back down? Like, that's when my wheels started turning because you were confident this was gonna be the rest of your life. You were gonna keep moving until the assist dropped out, and y and I
So
was a little worried.
yeah, like it was. I ran with Samir the entire yard. I ran with him 90% of my race. And so running and walking and jogging and talking to him, it was so easy. I don't know that I broke a sweat, and I don't think my heart rate got above 120 that first loop, right? And so like it never crossed my mind that within 2 hours I would be bored out of my mind and I would not find this format fun anymore. It only took me 3 yards, 3 hours to realize that I just wanted to go for a run now. Like it was fine the first yard because it was something brand new. And then the second yard, we kind of figured out like exactly where we were going to need to walk and run. And then by the third yard, we had a 25-minute marker on the course. So we kind of knew we needed to be back by the bench at mile 2. at 25 minutes. And then there was a bridge we wanted to get to at about 40 minutes in. And that was about 3 miles. And that would put us at 51 to 52 minutes back at the finish line. So it only took us 3, maybe 4 yards to figure that out. And then by then, I realized that I did not like the backyard ultra format at all. I just wanted to go for a run.
Well, to be fair, you didn't say anything about it at that point in time because I left at 4 p.m., I think, and you had not been vocal about that. But when you called me at like 10
Oh,
p.m., maybe it was
wait,
9 p.m.
let's come back to that. Okay.
Okay.
So
Okay.
so every yard I took at the mile 2 bench. Samir was very good in reminding me to take a gel. So I took acai pomegranate honey stinger gel every yard at mile 2. So if I never see one of those gels again, I will be extremely happy. I also took a full bottle of Tailwind at the beginning until about mile 35 when my hands started to swell and my wrist started to swell. And this happened to me during Cacapen. So I switched immediately to only water for about 5 or 6 hours. And then I started mixing Tailwind back in, and the swelling went back down, and everything was fine. But I was glad that that happened at Cacapen because I knew exactly what to do in that situation. So that helped. But yeah, like, so again, going with Samir, he was just good.
I was just gonna say when I left, that's whenever your hands had been swelling. You said, "Could it be the salt?" And I'm like, "I don't know." So I reached out to our dietitian friend Kara and said, "What do you think? Could this be salt?" And or the sodium. And she said, "Yeah, it could be." And she sent me an online sodium calculator to enter in like what kind of sweater you are and how many miles you're running and for how long and like all this stuff. And it said something like you should have had about 600 milligrams. I think it's milligrams, right? Milligrams of salt per hour of exercise, given the things that I entered. And when I started thinking about like, well, how much is in the tailwind I was like, doing the calculations in my head as I was driving, like, how much is in the tailwind? How many ounces is he having per hour whenever he's going on a loop? How much is in the gel that he's consuming? And then you reminded me whenever I called you that you had been taking G1M Sport and the foods that they were having, some of it was salty. So the potato chips, things like that, you were definitely, I believe, over that 600 milligrams per hour. And so that probably is exactly what was happening to you.
And it probably would have been fine if you were doing your normal run with normal atom sweating. But
Right.
because you were, running at a slower pace and it was cooler temperatures and you weren't getting rid of the sodium, that's probably why you had that buildup.
Yeah, because you are a heavy sweater, like extremely. But when you would come back from these yards, you're right. You were like not even noticeably sweaty at as far as I could see.
Yeah, and it was, what was it when we started? Like it felt like 24. It was probably really
Yeah.
32. I had running shorts on, but I had pants over top of it. I had a long sleeve shirt on with a short sleeve shirt over top of it. I had a beanie on. I had gloves on when we started. So like normally, even on the towpath, if I were wearing that much clothes, I would have been sweating to death on a Sunday morning run. So
There would have been clothes all over the towpath.
oh yeah. So yeah, so like I'm trying to think. The other thing that like kind of threw me off was looking back on it now, I probably would have tried to run my yards a little faster. I think like running them as slow as I did was smart as far as pacing goes, but like it kind of messed with my like form a little bit and kind of messed with just like how my legs were hitting the ground and my turnover. And then I would immediately switch to walking up a hill and then trying to run again. But like any time I felt good, like any momentum I got running, I would then all of a sudden be back at the camp. So I was talking to Samir today because him and I went running again this afternoon, and I was telling him just think like if you were doing 100-mile race and there's an aid station every 4 miles. Well, if you're feeling good, you don't stop at the aid station. You blow right past it, right? You maybe grab a water and you keep going, you keep that momentum going. But if they told you you had to stop and wait there 7 minutes, that would kill your momentum every single time you got to an aid station. So that started to like weigh on me mentally. And then once I got into like a bad mental headspace, I just couldn't get myself out of it. I don't know like why, but like on Facebook, I think I titled my recap "Death by 27 Yards." And I thought about that while I was running so many times. Like this is that old saying, which it's like death by 1,000 cuts or something, right? Like that's what this is. Every yard is just slowly cutting you and just like taking away your took away my joy. I told Katie this afternoon, I thought during the race, this is why people quit running because it wasn't fun. Like, like, look, hey, by the way, right? We put on a backyard ultra, so maybe I should be a little nicer here. But like, for some
That's why
people,
I was gonna say that's why you can be the race director and not
right?
feel the urge to
Yeah,
go out and run with everyone, right?
right,
And everybody else
exactly.
can go out
Like,
and actually enjoy the event for what it is.
yeah, I really just think like not having the patience needed to have like it just that just killed my mental momentum and like it just started weighing on me. And you know how like for me at least, if I'm in a bad mood, like I don't run well. So it started getting harder and harder. My times were the same, about 51 minutes each yard, until about yard 25, after I finally got to that 100-mile marker. But I guess I shouldn't go there yet. So yeah, at about yard what 50, that would have been 12 hours. That would have been like 8 p.m. I think that might have been when I came back, Chris, and like threw my vest off and my chest lamp off, and I said, "I'm done running. Take this stuff. I don't need it anymore." And I like sat in the chair and just like complained for like 2 minutes, with Chris and Fogel just staring at me, like they just looked at me and then like basically just said, all right, are you done now? Because it's almost time to go back on the course. Like, but
Yeah, you were having a moment and Fogel and I were like, we're gonna let you have it. But we knew you weren't really done. And we were hoping that just getting that out of your system would give you that little mental reset and you could go back out. And I think it worked. I mean, you struggled for a couple of yards, but you came back out of it.
Yeah,
yeah,
at
I re-
9 is when you called me and said it was 9 p.m. because you asked if I was going to bed, and I said, "I'll stay up one more, and then I'm definitely going to sleep." And you said, "I hate this format." That was, like, the first thing you said, and I was like, "Oh, no," and you go, "I knew I would either love it or hate it, and I hate it. I wanna be done. I don't wanna do this anymore." And so I said, "Well, okay. Well, you have to go until 7 a.m. tomorrow. You have to get 24 hours in because you said on the podcast it would be a waste of your time if you didn't go 100 miles. Then you went on to say it would be a waste of time. Same thing if you didn't go 200. But I knew 100 would be like a really significant mark for you to hit. So I said, just get through the night, go your 24 hours, and then quit then if still want to, because at that point in time, the sun's coming back up. And we all know that once it gets dark, that can play into your head as like into your mental state while you're running these things as well. And when the sun comes back up, all of a sudden you get a new life. So I thought maybe when the sun is back up and shining and he's made it, gotten through the night, maybe he'll like turn it around and want to go further. And you did. I don't want to spoil the ending here for anybody,
well,
but
yeah. So after I called you, I did like feel better. Like Chris and Fogel just heard me complain. You heard me complain. I got it out of my system for a little bit, and but then like when I went back out for those next 2 yards, what happened again was I felt good. I had momentum, but then I had to stop again. So I looking back, I don't know if like I should have run faster and kind of got it out of my legs, or if I should have run slower. That way I would have had less time to like stop and think. So I mean, I don't know which one would have
yeah.
helped, but
Well,
yeah.
at 10, when you called again, y I said, "Do you feel any better?" And you said, "Yeah, I think so." So, it had seemed like you must have gotten it out of your system a little bit and were ready to go, but yeah.
But then But then when we got to mile 71, whatever yard that is, when we started, I told Samir that I said, "Hey, this is my last yard. I'll get to 75 miles and I'm done." And he like looked at me, and just so everybody knows, Samir and I had talked trash for about 2 months straight before this race, maybe 4 months straight. I don't know, about who was going to go further and who was going to beat the other guy. And it was all playing around, but we both loved it. He looked back at me. He goes, "So you're just going to take the L?" And I said, "I don't care about an L. I don't care about anything. I'm done running. I hate this. I'm going to get to 75 and I'm quitting." And he just said, "Okay." And then we just ran on in silence. Yeah, he was like, "Okay, whatever." So I got back from mile 75, which I guess is yard like
Would have been 18.
18. Yeah, I got to 18 and then I sat and I don't know what I did after that yard, but I got back up and I went back out and then I just kept thinking like, what I said on the last podcast, what Katie just, reiterated to me was just try to get to 100. So then like that was my goal, was to try to get to 100, which when you're having a bad day starting at mile 30, like getting to 100 is like, I don't know why or how I actually kept going that far, but I did, and I made it to 100. And then I just thought, like, well, I bet there's going to be, because there were probably about, we could go back and look at the results. There were a good amount of people still in the race at 24 hours. So I just kept thinking, well, probably 3 or 4 will drop out now. So if I just do one more yard, I'll beat them in like the tiebreaker. So I went back out and then I still had time on the clock when I came back. I think I came back in about 55 minutes. So I decided I would do another yard. And then when I came back from that one, I had, let's see, I was at 56 minutes. So I decided I would do one more. And then on my last yard 27, I did it in 58:24. And I kind of knew that I might get 1 or 2 more if I pushed, but like my quads were on fire and my lower legs were starting to hurt and I was just mentally done. So I went about 200 meters out, and then there was another girl, Meg, who was suffering the same as I was. So we just decided we would turn around and walk back in. So I did 112 miles, 27 yards before I called it a day. I mean, at the end of the day, I was happy with like the way that I mentally fought through the race. And like I said, wanting to be done, 82 miles earlier than when I actually quit was a big deal. And hopefully, just like that Capen lesson about my hands swelling, hopefully, this about like keep going for so long will help me in a race in the future. But I know that I joked. Well, I didn't joke. I know that my Strava title said never again. And then in my Facebook post, I said, not for a long time. And then, Katie, what did I say to you on the couch a little bit ago?
I'd do that again.
So
I wish everybody could see my face when you said that.
So it might be a while, but yeah, I don't know. We'll see what
Now
happens.
listen, here's what I had to say about that is when you said you hated it, I wasn't that upset. I gotta be honest. Like, 2 things. You said that if you didn't like go really, really far and go to bigs, you would train, like put in a proper training block for the marathon for the fall. And I don't think I've seen you do that since we've been together. Like since I've known you, you have not really trained for a marathon. You just run and can always go do a good marathon. So I'm pretty excited to see you do that. So I wasn't that upset that you didn't love the backyard format. But also at the same time, the backyard format taking days versus a few hours, that's a bit of a time investment, a whole weekend, or you don't even know how much time you're investing because you don't know where the finish line is in a backyard. So I was okay with you never saying never again. I was like, glad you tried it. Don't got to do it again. Now, of course, I always support you in anything you want to do. So if you end up wanting to do another backyard, so be it. I'll be there to support you as long as I don't have my own race, apparently. But
So I did print out a calendar today and I wrote on October 4th, goal race. And I'll start filling in some squares here soon enough. But I do have Boston on April 20th first
a
to
little
work.
too late to start a training block for that, I think.
Nah, plenty of time to do a speed work or two, and then I'll be ready. Hey, but before we move too far away from the backyard, one thing I wanted to bring up was nutrition and eating and fueling, because that was another thing that like threw me off a little bit. When I did the practice, I ate, right? I drank a little bit during the yards and after the yards. But when we went to Capitol, I took a full bottle of either Tailwind or G1M Sport or water with me on each loop, and I drank 18 to 20 milli ounces, I guess, right? Ounces each time. So by the time like we stopped and peed on every single yard, sometimes multiple times. So my urine was clear the entire time and afterwards, which was a very, very good thing for me. So I didn't have to worry about rhabdo. That was like the key through this whole thing was staying healthy. So drinking throughout was very important, but that's way more fluids than I'm used to taking in. And then when we came back to the campsite, to the tent, we would eat, and I would eat like I was trying to get in at least 300 calories. So when I had Tailwind, I could eat a little bit less. But I think I told Chris this, and I'm sure I told Katie this, but like at one point, like I just felt disgusting. Like I felt like I was eating way too much food, and like I had to go to the bathroom, but I couldn't go to the bathroom because you're running and you're messing up your insides. And I just kept thinking, like, is this what I want to do? Like, why am I eating all this just so I have to poop later? Like, but I can't go to the bathroom because it doesn't feel good. And like, I don't know, like there was just a point where I just got tired of eating and no food sounded good. And luckily, like Chris and Fogel were there. They're like, no, dude, you have to eat something. Like, here's mashed potatoes, here's whatever. Like, you have to eat something, take it with you and eat it as you go. So at one point, I started eating crackers instead of taking a gel on the loop. I think I did that like twice. There was another time where I told Fogo to get me a rice pudding and an applesauce, and then I set it down on the table. And then when I came back on the next yard, they were sitting right there still. So like I never even touched them. But yeah, like I ate so much food for me. When I ran the Canal 100, I lived off of Tailwind, water, and gum, and that was it. The second time I ran the Canal 100, I ate 2 tacos from the Hurt tent, and that was what I had to eat during the 100 miler.
But how many hours did those take you?
Well, 15 and a half and 16. But so imagine when I come back at yard one, I'm already like stuffing my face because it's been drilled in me that you can't get behind in this
Well,
format.
well, sure, but that's because you planned to go a long time. Your plan was to
Right.
go 24 hours or more. So if you wanted to do that, you had to fuel your body that way. You couldn't wait until you were hungry and then expect to be able to eat enough to keep your body satiated. I mean, I think there's also something to be said for, I know it probably sucked at the time, and I haven't done this, but your recovery. Is it time to talk about that? Can we transition into that?
Sure.
Because you don't seem to have taken very long to recover. I mean, I know you're probably still a little sore and you're still moving maybe a little slower than what would be normal and not putting in quite as many daily miles since the race. However, you're not hobbling around, and we're only a few days out from it. You're not complaining about being sore. You're, like, just living with you, and how you're moving and running and existing doesn't seem like you ran 112 miles just a few days ago.
That's because I walked like half of it.
Oh, okay, that's true.
So No, like, yeah, it was obviously less intense on my body, right? But yeah, you're right. Like the food being taken in during the race definitely helped with recovery. And then like staying hydrated that whole time, you're fueling your muscles and stuff. So yeah, I know it was necessary. And like obviously I'm glad I did it because it kept me healthy, it kept me going throughout. But it just at one point I was like, enough's enough. I can't eat any more food. Like I just nothing sounded good and I just didn't want to do it anymore. Like I think the biggest injury I have from that race is the inside of my mouth like hurt and like my lips were chapped and I even got chapstick during the race, but like my lips were chapped for like 2 days. I didn't have like a Jeff episode with my mouth, but yeah, it was definitely like sore and just a little painful.
Yeah, for our listeners who maybe weren't tracking the weather of the event, there were steady winds the entire weekend and those cold temperatures. So I think everybody left that event with chapped lips. But it definitely
Do
was
you
worse
want
for
to
those of you who are out there on the course.
explain the Jeff incident or whatever you called it just a minute ago?
So our friend Jeff, God love him, he on probably I guess the 12th yard, he was out and he started to cramp up and he was having a tough time. And one of the fellow competitors had a purple pill that was some sort of salt pill, allegedly, and offered it to Jeff. And without even thinking about it, Jeff took it and he bit into it. And immediately, whatever was inside that pill just burned, scratched up something the inside of his mouth, and it was not pleasant for him for quite a while. He came back, and after he dropped out at the end of yard 12, he was trying to talk to us, and it literally sounded like he had socks in his mouth. Like he was just and we're trying to decipher, and we're terrible friends, but it was hilarious because we had no idea what he was saying, and we eventually got him to rinse his mouth out and use some of that rice pudding and some other things to cool the burning that was going on, and then he could actually tell us what happened. But yeah, I think the takeaway from that is do not accept anything from someone on the course if you don't know what it is.
Hey, I have just a couple more things I think to share about my backyard experience. The first one is, believe it or not, I had never actually had rice pudding before in my life until Saturday. So I was listening to another podcast and a different backyard ultra guy said that it like saved his race at one point. So I was like, well, I'll get some. So I got some from the store and I had it. I didn't really like it, but it was good. I mean, it was fine. Like I took it and ate it and it had like a weird texture, but I wouldn't just like go sit down and eat rice pudding while I'm watching Netflix or something, but in a bind during the backyard ultra, it worked out great. The other thing I wanted to mention was Chris reminded me about when I said on the last podcast regarding sleep that I would not sleep the first night. I would just kind of hang out, stay awake. And that definitely did not happen. When it got nighttime, I was tired and I tried to get, 3 or 4 minutes of sleep whenever I could. When I came back, they would get my bottle, get my food ready, and I would try to sleep for even if it was 4 minutes or so. I remember one time I did fall asleep pretty good. And when I got out of the chair, the next 2 miles felt great. I felt really good, re energized. And then after about 2 miles of running, I just felt like I had felt the rest of the time and just kind of lost all that energy. So maybe a longer nap would have helped. I don't know. But again, just one of those things I had no idea what I was doing or talking about. I definitely wanted to sleep that first night and glad that I was able to get a few minutes here or there because I think it really did help me out during the next couple of yards.
You and Samir did a really nice job of falling asleep, but subconsciously listening to the whistles. And for the most part, you guys were waking up on the 1 minute whistle. because Fogel and I were ready. We were ready to wake you up if you didn't, but you both would start to stir right either just before or right at the 1 minute whistle, except for Samir that one time. And we got down to about 30 seconds and we could not get him awake. And finally, Fogel grabbed him and was like, Samir, you have to go. And he sat up and he was like, why? How much time? And we're like, 30 seconds. And he was like, zoom, zoom, zoom. Like he grabbed some food and he made it in with, easily with 10 seconds to spare. But I was a little nervous on that one that we weren't going to get him awake in time.
Yeah, that was it. It was kind of weird when you're laying there. You're trying just to rest, right? You're just trying to just get calm. Your heart rate, my heart rate wasn't high when I sat down, just because we had walked in on purpose to get the heart rate low. So you lay down, and I like to know like how long I have to sleep. Like I'm one of those people that if I wake up in the middle of the night, I always look at the clock to know like how much longer I have before my alarm goes off. So when I would sit down, I would look at my watch and go, okay, 4.5 minutes or 6 minutes. If I didn't, I would have to stop what I was doing and look at it just to see. So I kind of knew like how long before that first three whistle blast would be. And I definitely, like you said, I definitely heard all of the whistles. But yeah, I kind of was able to sleep through them until that last one went off, and I was like get out of the chair and get ready to go back on that. But that little bit of rest definitely did help. Yeah. I think like sleep wise I was okay, but if I would have made it like to another night, I probably would have fell asleep and stayed asleep, because that next afternoon when I fell asleep, I was out. Yeah. So it would have been tough not going that long without sleep. That was the other part that was pretty hard, was just thinking about if you're like if you're tired and you fall asleep, imagine somebody like telling you, no, you have to get up right now and go. Like you don't get another 30 seconds. It's almost back to like when we're toddlers, right? And your parents are like, nope, get out of bed, we're leaving. It's the same exact thing.
I don't think I could do it. I I think even if I ever wanted to do a backyard, I think I could only last until it's time for me to sleep. Like I cannot stay up. I think if I closed my eyes and went to sleep, I'd be like, nah, like I'm sorry. Go on without me. I'm good because I cannot do this.
All right, so a quick recap. I did 27 yards, 112 miles. I reached my one goal of 100 miles. Obviously, I failed at my other goal of 200 miles. Obviously, I failed even bigger at winning the event. I had no idea what I was in for. Sometimes when you don't know what you're talking about, you just don't know, right? Like this race definitely taught me some things that I did not know, and I didn't expect for it to be as hard as it was. But I'm 100% glad that I did it now. I learned a lot about myself, and I learned a lot about my friends that came out to help me out. So that was awesome, a great experience. I loved it. Now that I'm sitting in a different chair, I say that I loved it, right? But I still hated it when I was out there, 100%. But there were, go ahead, Chris.
Do you want to talk about the special hydration that you used on the 27th yard
Oh, yeah, yeah,
that
yeah.
kind of
So
helped get you through that last one?
yeah, so on my last yard, right before we went out on the last yard, I said, Chris, it's beer time. Let's get a beer. So he went over and got a Michelob Ultra for me. And the rule is whatever you take with you, you have to bring back. So if you one time I took like a cup of noodles and I dumped it into a Gatorade cup that we had because it was so hot. So I took that Gatorade cup with me, and then I have to carry that, all the way back to this finish line. So I put that in my pocket, brought it back with me. When I went out on yard 27, I had my water bottle in one hand and a Michelob Ultra bottle in the other. And the other runners and the race directors, and they're like, are you taking that with you? You're going to drink that? And I was like, oh yeah, this is the victory lap. Like I knew that was going to be my last yard. That was a great beer that lasted probably about a mile before I finished it. And then I'm just running through the woods with a water bottle in one hand and a empty Michelob bottle in the other hand. So that was good hydration. I'm glad that I saved it until the end. I did tell somebody that I should have told Chris to give me the other five, and then I could have went out on one more yard and had a really big party. But then they might have had to come get me out of the woods, so that wouldn't have been too good for the race directors either. So I didn't want to put anybody in a bad position. But that was a good one. Hey, while we were out there at Capitol Backyard, there were some people that did some amazing things, and we were lucky enough to be there and witness them. Most of them we saw the entirety of, but the winner, Harry Sabortis, I think, I don't know his name, he's last name, but he set the new Lithuanian record with 266.67 miles. So 64 yards. They were into the third night, if I'm correct, right? I think they're into the third night.
And for our listeners, if you're wondering, yes, that is the same Harry Sabertus who finished first at the 2024 Cocodona 250.
Yeah, yeah. So he looked smooth the entire time. If he was feeling any pain or if he was not enjoying himself like I wasn't, he didn't show it at all. He just did the same thing, 48 to 51 minutes every yard. He looked great. Second place, the assist was David Kay. He ran 63 yards, 1 lap short of his personal best from Biggs 2024. So he had an amazing race again. He just looked smooth the whole time. There was a woman, Joelle Fenton, who reached 200 miles. So she ran 48 yards. She was the only female to go 200. The fourth place person was Victoria Brown. She did 47 yards, and she earned a spot on Team Canada for Big's Backyard. So there were two women who crushed it. I mean, 47 and 48 yards for them. That was amazing. And then I ran with our boy Samir, like I said, about 90% of the time. He did 36 yards, which was 150 miles, and he broke his own Honduras record. So he is the record holder for the entire country of Honduras for having the most yards in a backyard. So that was pretty cool. He broke his own record that he set at the More Miles last one standing last year when he did 26. And then Marty Fox was everybody's favorite at the race. I think he's 78, I think, but he ran 20 yards, so 83.33 miles, and he set a world record for his age group at Capitol Backyard. So, and he was just happy as can be the entire time he was out there. It was pretty awesome to see him each yard, and every time we saw him, Samir and I were like, I don't know, he's cutting it close, but he managed to come back in 58, 59 minutes, and then he would go back out. So there were some really cool, really amazing things that happened at Capitol. A great race as far as the venue and the race directors and the other runners. The course was beautiful, the trail part. The night course, once we got that all figured out, it was good as well. But it was fun being out there with so many good competitors. I am very happy that it's over, though.
Well, I know for me, just being able to be there as crew and experience it, it was a great weekend, even despite the weather. We can talk about that maybe at another time, but I really appreciated being able to watch everyone work so hard, and I picked up so much that I'm really excited to give the backyard a go when I run the More Miles in May. Hopefully I'll be able to match your 112, but we'll see.
If you know anybody, there's only 17 spots left in that race, so you got to sign up quick. I probably did a good job selling how amazing the backyard is during this podcast, but yeah, I mean, it really did teach me a lot about myself. It just wasn't my style of running currently that I enjoy. That's all.
I think it goes to show that like everybody has their favorite style or their favorite races, right? Their favorite race distance or their favorite race formats or things they like better and things that they don't. And the Backyard Ultra isn't for you, Adam, because you said it on the podcast before when we talked about it. You are used to going from point A to point B as fast as you can. And that's always been your mantra. That's always been the simple advice you give anybody. Just go from point A to point B as fast as you can. Okay, simple enough. But there was no point B. There was only point A. And you didn't know where B was, and you had to slow down to be able to go further, but you didn't know how far. It was just I don't think that really goes with your style right now. Maybe when you're a little older and, uh, don't wanna go as fast anymore, but I think you just were bored. That was my overall analysis of what was going on.
And I've thought about this too. Like, I would be really curious, Adam, to see what would happen if you went out and ran the 4 miles at 8:30 pace on the trail,
Yeah.
got back, and just chilled, did whatever until it was time to go again. And then you went out and ran another, 8:30, 8 to 8:30, and just see how long you would last. I mean, I think at that point, your competitiveness might kick in. And I'd be curious. Whether you would go the same distance more or whether it would tear you up and you would fall out sooner, but I think it'd be worth the experiment.
I think that would be really interesting though, because if you can run a 100 miler at that certain pace, what would be the issue with doing that in 4.167 increments? Just doing it at
Well,
that same pace.
And if you had the 20 minutes to sleep,
Yeah.
that might be an interesting
yeah,
you might be the next Phil Gore.
I said earlier though, like it's when you go for a run, you sometimes you get into that like flow state, right? And you get like the momentum going. And but this every 4 miles you would be forced to stop. So any momentum you get, it just dies. And I think that was what like mentally was destroying me a little bit inside was that like, all right, great, I feel good now. Finally, I feel good. And then we were going up a hill to the finish line, and then I had to stop and wait to go again. But I did talk to Samir about that today, and like I did tell him I wish I would have run a few of the yards faster just to let my legs open up a little bit. And then if I blew up, I blew up, you know? But I didn't, I was trying to play the game and stick to the game plan when I should have probably did the Ross Geller and pivot and just kind of see what what happened if I ran a couple faster, you know? Chris, I threw you off with that analogy, didn't I?
You did. I do think that not if, when you run another backyard, I think you should experiment a little bit and play around with it and, be open to that to see, how it, like you said, you may blow up and it may end, at 65 miles or whatever, but you never know unless you try. You may find the secret sauce.
Yeah. All right. Well, enough about my horrible backyard experience. It really wasn't that bad. Let's talk about Katie's amazing PR at Hub City Half on Sunday.
Well, guys, I don't have that much time, so I ran
Yeah.
13.1 miles, the fastest I've ever run it. See you guys next week. Just kidding.
Perfect.
So, yeah, I ran Hub City Half on Sunday. It was a really great event. It was a great day. I was a little nervous about the cold because it was going to be like 33 at the start. That was the forecast, and I actually have learned to love running in the 40s, but 30s is still a little chilly for my preference. So I was a little nervous about that, but it all worked out to be a great weather day. The sun was shining. We started in the Boxcars Stadium in Hagerstown. And well, technically, we didn't start in the stadium. I thought we started in the stadium, and me and Matt and Jay went on our warm up. And when we came back, everybody was walking out of the stadium. It was almost like a line of all the runners were just walking around like home plate and down the first base line. And finally, I saw somebody I know and I said, "Hey, where is everybody going?" And then, because I was like, "Are they doing a group warm up somewhere? What's happening here?" And they're like, "We're going to the start line." And immediately I panic because I don't normally go to the race without Adam, and he usually keeps me like on time and where to go at what time and make sure I hit the start line at the right time. And I was like just lollygagging around, I guess. And then I realized, oh my gosh, I start panicking and I run over to Jay and Matt and I'm like, everybody's going to the start line. They said, we still have 17 minutes. You have plenty of time. So I go over and get my race shoes on. We go to the start line and I decided not to wear my jacket, which I thought I would start with. and I was brave, and it just worked out perfectly as far as I had short sleeves, arm sleeves that I ended up taking off about halfway through, gloves, and then shorts with tall socks, and it was like the perfect running weather. But when we got started, I just felt kind of an ease and happiness, and I reminded myself how much I love to do this. Even though I like showed up to the race by myself, I was not by myself. I knew so many people from the Tulo community, from Bros and Bras, from the ELM Active running group, just great, great people that I was surrounded with. It was almost like I was overwhelmed with how many people I had to talk to or wanted to talk to. And it was just a really, really fun event. But when I got started, the gun goes off, I go out, I'm going way too fast. I knew I was, but I was like, oh well, full send. That's my normal. So I was like, okay, kind of chill. And I looked down at my hands, and the whole morning I'm like, there's no possible way I didn't forget something. Like, this is just my MO. Do I have my bib? Yes, I have my bib. Okay, there's one thing over other races that I've done. Do I have my gels? Yes, I have my gels. Do I have okay. We get out. I'm about 0.15 into this race, and I look down and I don't have my handheld. Now, my only fueling strategies are take your gels at miles 3, 6, 9 and carry Tailwind in the handheld to sip on throughout the race. The two things that does for me is it allows me to drink whenever I want to. It gives me those extra calories and electrolytes, but also I don't have to stop at any aid stations. Well, now I don't know the last time I stopped at aid stations during a half marathon because I've always carried everything I need. So now I'm thinking, oh shoot, don't have my handheld. Well, it's not like I can go back. I didn't even bring it to the race. I couldn't have even remembered it at the last second because I didn't bring it at all. It's at home, not filled up. So I luckily remembered I had checked out where all the aid stations were. And so I didn't panic because I knew they were plentiful. There were plenty of aid stations. And then I started thinking about Adam running his race and how Chris was supposed to be following me on RaceJoy so he could update Adam. And then I thought, well, shoot, I didn't start RaceJoy. So as I'm running in the first quarter mile of this half marathon, where I'm running way too fast to begin with, I have to pull my phone out of the back pocket in my sports bra, get to the race, unlock my phone, get to the RaceJoy app and start it. And by the time I got to the first mile, according to RaceJoy, it said I ran something like a 5:23 first mile. And I was thinking, if Chris is following me on this, I don't know what Adam's going to think that I did in this first mile, because I'm pretty sure they know I can't run a 5:23 mile and definitely wouldn't do it in a half marathon. But as those things go, I was too fast. I was at about a 7:23 for my first mile, which was not the plan. The plan had been to go out at half marathon PR pace. I had just PR'd at Wilmington, which we've talked about before. But so my pace that I wanted to hit was more like a 7:45, and I was running under 7:25. So I knew that either meant disaster later in the race, or I don't know, just keep pushing, see what happens, F around and find out, you know? So that's what I did. I felt great the whole race until, I don't know, maybe around mile 10 again, just like Wilmington. I managed to grab water bottles or the water cups at the aid stations. I had my gels, so I felt well supplied the whole way. It got hard, but I guess after talking about it after the race, I was speaking with people and we're like, well, we keep waiting for it not to be hard at that certain point in the race, but it always gets that way because, well, last time it got hard at mile 10, but this time did the same thing, but I'm running faster. So somehow I was able to keep up my pace. I think I ran every single mile except for one between that 7:25 and 7:50. I only had 1 mile that was over 7:50, which is there's a couple killer hills at the end of it, which I thought were trying to take me to my grave. But I fought through it and ended up finishing the race in my PR time. The race was a little short, so it was right at, I think, 13 miles. I have photographic evidence of me checking my watch at the end, and then I can't remember. I think I kind of blacked out at that point in time because I was just panicked trying to decide. I told everybody I would not keep running, but since it was my PR, it had to be on Strava. So at the end of the race, I heard some people say all the people you knew were serious about their time kept running past the finish line to get that extra 0.1 in so that we had our PRs or our race times in technically as a half marathon for Strava, but I do think they'll fix that short distance for next year. But anyway, I ran a 1:40:45 according to my watch. My official time is just under 1:40. When I came into what you do is you come in to the stadium at the right, like at the warning track in the right field area, and you run along the warning track over to the left field area, and that's where the finish line is. So when I got in there, I knew I was about a minute, maybe 45 seconds away from breaking that 1:40 according to the clock. So the race time. So I put it all out there, and I was in a dead sprint for what I had left in my legs around that warning track, just trying to break that 1:40 on the clock. And I nearly did it. I think I only beat it by like three or 4 seconds, something like that. But it was a really nice race. It's strange because before the race, I told people, like, as I anticipated the hills, all I heard about this race was that it was hilly, not crazy like Blue Ridge or anything, but just a lot of hills around Hagerstown. So I started thinking of all the races I've done recently, and I pretty much only choose flat races, it seems. So I was not sure what I could do. I was not expecting a PR, but when I went out, I just allowed myself the opportunity to PR. I trusted myself through the first half of the race with PR paces. Very, very similar to what I did in Wilmington. And then when it got hard, I continually reminded myself to stay in that positive headspace, as in, I'm so lucky to be here. I'm fighting through this. It's not that much longer. And it worked out. So I'm really, really proud of the race because the hills at the end were so hard. It would have been so easy to just give in and take a little walk break or let it get in my head that it was very, very hard and I wasn't prepared for it, but I guess I was. And I'm very proud of that race, and I'm looking forward to doing that again next year. I know some of the situation is the weather. The weather played a really big part in why a race is so enjoyable, I think. But I don't know. There's something about running along the roads and having a good race that brings you like warm, fuzzy feelings, I think. So all in all, I was 5th female. I was first Masters female, and it was a great day. Lots of great people. And what were you going to say, Adam?
I was going to say you got a big ass trophy to prove you got first place too.
I have kept that trophy on the island of our kitchen, just very conveniently positioned where when you walk in from the garage, you can't help but look right at it.
It's the only thing you see when you walk in the house. And I have a
Oh,
big
yeah.
old DNF award right next to it. I'm just kidding.
Give me a few days, Adam. I'm still riding the high. I swear I told everybody I was like on this high from that race because of all the people, all just the great vibes, the great weather, the sunshine. I mean, of course, coming away with a PR is enough to make anybody feel great about the day.
I think one of the things you probably liked the most about the race was the amount of people that you knew, right? Like
Mhm.
like it seemed like you knew everybody there and you were talking to a bunch of people. Imagine if you went to a random half marathon in Michigan by yourself, you probably wouldn't have had as much fun, even if you PR'd, right?
Yeah, that you're 100% correct about that.
And I also know you probably wouldn't go to Michigan because you'd be scared it was be too cold. So I'll
Yeah.
restate that and say like Georgia or something.
Right. It definitely wouldn't be as fun. I think you could still have great race day vibes and like weather and stuff. That was good. But it's really a strong community we have around here, and it's really everything as far as how I feel about an event of any sort, I guess. When I came off this race, it was talking to some of my friends. I was like, I feel like I talked to a ton of people. There were just people everywhere that every time I was in one conversation, if I left that conversation, I immediately ran into somebody else to talk to. And it was a little overwhelming, but then I even felt bad about not talking more to some people that I would like see from a distance and say hi to. So I sometimes spread myself a little thin, but I get really overwhelmed when there's so many familiar faces and so many people that I want to share like experiences and just talks to. But do you know what half those people were asking me about anyway? How's Adam doing? Is he still running? You were a hot topic of conversation.
I hope you didn't tell him I had a bad attitude.
I said that you didn't like it.
Yeah,
I
fair
said he
enough.
doesn't like the format, but the fact that I haven't heard from him yet, and he knows I would be finished with my race by now, that tells me he's probably still running and that he went over 100 miles. So, and it was shortly thereafter I did hear from you. So, but yeah, it was just a great race. And I know everybody who's listening doesn't probably feel like they know as many people as maybe that we do, and maybe it wouldn't be as fun because you mentioned that. But I think the biggest thing is putting yourself out there. And if you are somebody who's local to the community and wants to meet more people, come out to pub runs, come out to races, look for us. Honestly, we will talk to anybody, especially about running or your race or our races, whatever you want to talk about. So I think just being involved more and putting ourselves out there and talking to more and more people just gives us more and more friendly faces to see. Because I used to be that runner that would show up at a race and not really know anybody. And I would run my race and then I would leave. And I still enjoyed it. It was still fun, but it's even better now, I must say. Now, the only other thing that I'll bring up is after the race, and I think I've been limping as much as Adam has. My quads are just trashed from all. Probably, I think it's downhill. The downhills get the quads, right? So while the uphills feel harder in the moment, the downhills are what tear you up for later. However, I did complain maybe once or twice that, oh my gosh, my quads hurt so bad. And Adam was like, "Did you run 100 miles?" And I think that the point is I said, "Did you run yours fast?" So we both did. We both did our thing on the weekend. Just one was way different than the other.
Agreed. Well, Chris, do you have anything you'd like to wrap us up with as far as you are leaving in a couple of days, right? A few days to go to
Yeah.
your race?
Yeah, so this is the Wednesday, so essentially 10 days before my race. So this is Wednesday. We're flying out on Sunday. Just really excited to get out there and experience it. You know, ironically, one of the guys who was running at Capitol is also going to be at Gorge Waterfalls 100K. So I'll be looking to hook up with him when we're out there. So that'll be cool. Turns out he's friends with someone you may have heard with, Tara Dower. He'll be there crewing for her, so that's kind of cool.
It was not that was that guy Sean, right? Is that who that was? I think Sean was his
Yeah,
name. Yeah,
yeah,
okay.
Sean. So yeah, no, I just was really grateful to be able to share the experience with you at Capitol, and I'm looking forward to, here in less than 2 weeks getting to go out and experience a race where I won't know anyone other than maybe Sean and see how that goes. So
This is
Yeah.
the family going with you.
yeah, Megan will be going with me, and then two of our friends from the Charlottesville area are gonna fly out and help crew. They were looking for a vacation. They're on spring break the same week, so we're gonna make it a big, week long adventure and cap it off with my race on that Saturday. So should be good.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah, we are looking forward to hearing your recap about that one. It's going to be great no matter what happens, right? Stay positive, enjoy the race format, and
I was gonna say I can't get out there and say I don't like the race format.
right. You're gonna do so well. The only thing you might say is you don't like the elevation, but you knew that coming in, right? I guess I knew that too going into my race, but yeah, I think you're gonna enjoy it. And I know what we talked about on the podcast that will have just come out. The views are fantastic and you're going to have a great time.
Yeah, there'll at least be good photos, even if the race doesn't go well. So
Yeah.
it'll be
Well,
it'll be a good weekend.
I appreciate everybody. If you've listened this far in the podcast, thanks for sticking around and listening to my race recap of Capitol Backyard and then Katie's race recap of Hub City Half. We look forward to hearing about Chris's race that's coming up. And that's all I got for you. Katie, anything to close out?
Nope. You
Chris,
put me on the spot. I wasn't prepared.
I like doing that. Chris.
No, I think we're good.
All right. We'll see you guys. Talk to everybody next week.
Bye.
That's all for today's episode of Tales on the Towpath. Thanks for joining us on another run down memory lane and along the C&O. If you've enjoyed the show, be sure to follow, share it with a friend, and leave us a review. Until next time, keep your pace steady and your stories flowing.